Alright everybody, hey, I'm going to show you how to basically hook up and program primarily an Inovonics FA416. This happens to be a DR receiver, wireless receiver, to an alarm panel, which I don't have, but we'll just simulate that there's an alarm panel out there. We're going to have a wireless transmitter. This is an Inovonics FA210, which is wired to Honeywell Ademco 269R hold-up button. So just like that. Boom. Okay. And how we're going to program this is we're going to use an Inovonics FA416 programmer. Pretty slick little machine here. I used to do all my programming with just a cable and pushing a bunch of buttons inside of here, and the 116 is a lot nicer. So if you work with Inovonics and you don't have one, get one. A little bit about the receiver itself. Again, this is a FA416. What that means is you can have up to 4 outputs plus a wireless fault, and you can have up to 16 transmitters. Okay. I can program all 16 transmitters to trip point 1 or output 1. I can have any combination of transmitters to trip output 2, 3, 4, 1. It doesn't matter. You can have up to 4 outputs. Now these outputs go to the alarm panel. Those outputs are right here on the side. You can kind of see. It looks a little blurry to me through this, so I hope it's showing up okay when I post this. But basically, you got 12 volt DC positive and ground. These are in blocks of 3. It's like a reset. I've never used that before, but then the next block of 3 is going to be your output 1, and it's going to be normally closed, common, normally open, and it's going to go in that series for output 2, closed, common, open for output 3, closed, common, open, output 4. And then over here we have our wireless fault. That's how we'd hook up the wireless fault. Okay. This is the tamper switch. If you want to hook up your tamper switch, you can do that also. But it doesn't matter how the receiver is wired into the alarm panel, as long as you have your resistors in the proper state, whether it's normally open or normally closed. I wire mine normally open. Here's an example of that. FA416 to the alarm panel with the resistor in parallel. If you want to wire it up normally closed, that's fine. You just put the resistor in series. And again, just to refresh, that would be your common and your normally open. I'm sorry, it's closed. Common, normally open, and I'd put the resistor between these 2 points right there. If I use common, normally closed, I would just put the resistor right in line. Alright. I'm going to kind of be a little scatterbrained on this thing, so just bear with me. I'm jumping around, and I'm kind of holding this camera too, so it kind of bounces around a little bit. Inovonics FA416 hardwired into the alarm panel. It can be hardwired into zone 1 or point 1, point 2, point 8. If you got a 24-point alarm panel, you can put output 1 to point 24 if you want to. It doesn't matter. You put it wherever you want to, or you put it wherever you're told to put it. That gets a little confusing, because if you're talking to someone like I do, I talk to programmers, and they say, point 8 is an alarm. Well, point 8 might actually be hooked up to output 2, and then output 2 might only be responding to transmitter 6. So you have to know, okay, transmitter 6 trips output 2, which then trips point, whatever I said earlier, 9 or whatever point it is. So it can get a little confusing, but it just takes practice and just thinking things through. It's not a big deal. On your 269R hardwired into your FA210 transmitter, what I've got here, and again it's kind of upside down, but you can see that I've got it hardwired into the common and normally closed here. This 269R is kind of slick. It's this is end of the line, end of the line, normally closed, common, normally open. So I can wire this little gizmo up any way I want to, open or closed. If I wire it up normally closed, that's fine. When we get into programming this, we will tell this receiver that I want a normally closed contact on this point right there. If I want to wire it up normally open, that's fine. Just tell this little guy that you want to have this point as a normally open contact. I usually wire them up or program them as normally closed in case there's any sort of, I don't use end of the line here, perhaps I should, but I don't, so that's why I wire it up or program it as normally closed. Now I attempted this earlier and I tried to pause, but when I paused the video it just saved it and I had to start all over again. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Bear with me here. The FA416 has two different cables on it. This is the little 3-pin header. As you can kind of see, it really only has 2 wires going into it. It doesn't matter how it's landed on the transmitter. Doesn't matter how it's landed on there, and I'll show you that later. And then the only other cable coming off of this is like, what is that, 2.5 pin connector there. So what we're going to do is, we've already got this thing powered up. Let's see if I can get them both in here at the same time. I'm going to plug this into this this provisional port right here. Alright, and this comes on, does its little startup. The default, and first of all I'm going to have a disclaimer here. Everything I'm showing you is what I'm used to. There may be other ways to do it, that's fine. This is the way I do it. The default pin number to get into this programmer is 3446. Okay, and then it goes to point status. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll through and show you what these things are. Okay, and I'm just using my arrow keys right here. Test outputs, clear fault, delete point, program point, output setup, receiver setup, and then we're back to point status. Point status, if you have no idea what's going on and you plug this thing in, you can actually do point status, enter, and it'll show you, again I'm using my arrow keys here, it'll show you, okay, point number 1 is unused to. This is a new receiver, so there's nothing programmed in here, but it'll go up to 16. Then it'll go back to number 1, okay? So I have nothing programmed in this thing, no transmitters programmed in here. I'm going to exit back out of that. If I go to test outputs, enter, I can enter to toggle output 1. So if I hit enter here, it'll toggle output 1 for me, and it turned output 1 on. Okay, which is tripping, it's changing this relay state. So if it was wired up normally open, now it's closed, vice versa. So that's a way you can get in there and test to test your receiver, see if your output is wired up to the alarm panel, and physically where is it wired up. If you trip output 1 on the receiver and then it trips 0.8 on your alarm panel, well then you know that output 1 is whatever 0.8 is, lobby holdup or whatnot. Turn that off, and you go through and then test output 2 and just go on down the list. 3, 4. You can test your fault output, which is the bottom LED. There you go. So you can test all that stuff. It's kind of cool. I'm going to hit enter to back out of that. Test outputs, no. Clear faults, if you have a fault, I'll talk about that later. Delete point, you can delete an alarm point. If there's a whatever, for whatever reason you can delete a point. We're going to go to program a point, okay? Enter point number to program. I'm going to program this transmitter as point number 1. And now here's where you decide, is it normally open or normally closed? Well, it's going to be normally closed. Okay, I want this to be in a normal satisfied state with a closed contact. So I'm going to change this from open to closed using my arrow key. Enter. End of the line resistor, I say no, you can do what you want to. Internal contact, I say no, you can do what you want to. Check-in time 60 seconds, I bumped that down to 30 seconds. Just for whatever reason. And now I can assign transmitter number 1 to trip whatever output I want it to trip. And in this example I want it to trip output 1. Enter. Okay. Enter to program A, okay. And now connect, what does it say? Connect, transmitter, whatever. And then press A. So here's my thing. And again, it doesn't matter. There's a little 3-pin header on all the Inovonics devices here. So again, it doesn't matter which way it goes on, this way or I can turn it this way, I don't care, it doesn't matter. Just land it on there. And then you have to hit the reset button. Let's see if I can do this. Hit the reset button here, which is right next to it. And point number 1 transmitter is programmed. Take this back off. Done. Okay. Back out of this if I want to. Okay. pull this out. Okay, now we're disconnected. Now, technically, I'm going to put this on here so the spring doesn't pop off. If I pull this and I go from a closed to an open, it'll trip this, which will then trip this, which will then run on down and trip my alarm panel. So output 1 should trip when I pull this. And it does. Okay. It also looks like I got a fault of some sort. Not sure what that fault is, but we can find that out. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this button here. Okay, output 1. See how it's showing. I'm going to do it again. And it might be better if I have the cover on, because then you can actually see what the heck is going on here. Okay, it shows output 1 is activated, which it is. I'm going to reset that. I should have put that down. There's a little reset key right there. Reset that, buddy. Pow. Okay, output 1 is cleared, but it's still got a fault. So I'm going to hold down. Here are your faults over here. And again, this looks blurry. I hope it comes through better. Top one is activated, tampered, low battery, and inactive. So those 4 LEDs will correspond with these 4 LEDs here. So if I push this, it'll show me that's the second LED. 1 is whatever the second LED is. Okay, 1 has been tampered. Okay, that makes sense. So what I can do is, I've got my fault there. If I hold down my tamper spring here, that'll go away. It may take a second, but it will. Unless. Okay, well I know why that's doing that. What we'll have to do, let's get in there and clear that. Alright, let's do it while we're here. Plug this back in. 2 things. I'm going to see what 3, 4, 4, 6. Okay, point status. I'm going to hit enter here. And it shows that 1 is tampered. Okay. And it shows it's a good signal. If I go to number 2, that's going to be unused. So everything else is unused. So you see we programmed point 1 and there is point 1 right there. So I think what's happening is my tamper is not follower. I think it's a latching. So I'm going to go to output setup. Okay, number 1 is alarm. I want it to be an alarm, so I'm hitting enter here. I'm sorry. Number 2 is an alarm. 3 is an alarm. I'm going to keep going. 4 is an alarm. Okay, alarm outputs are followers. Okay, all the alarm outputs are followers. Aha, tamper output is latching. Let's change that puppy to follower. Boom. Low battery is latching. I want that to be a follower. And inactive output is follower. That's good. Okay. Back out of that. Back out of that. Remove that. Okay. So it kind of takes a little while for this to reset. Okay, there's my fault because I have the tamper spring. Now if I do this, it'll go away. So my tamper was latching. Now it's a follower, so it follows whatever state it is in. Alright, so again, I pull my hold up, trips output 1, booyah, which then changes state and trips your alarm panel. Reset, done, done deal. Alright, I'm going to follow this up with another video. I hope this helps.